Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Fits. Again, I'm starting my new direction by pulling out a quote from Eckhart Tolle. I have a little box of quotes, and I'll pull one out each morning. And we'll kind of like, these are Tolle quotes are kind of like cotton balls, and you just want to pull them apart a little bit to see what's in there. You want to open it up a little bit. They're like Buddha's sutras. A sutra in Buddhism is a compressed wisdom. So you have to pull it apart. You have to open it up and let it breathe. You have to make it transparent. So making a wisdom, a compressed wisdom sutra or saying or quote, transparent means that you want to make it applicable to your everyday life. If you can't make it work in your everyday life, if you can't use it, if you can't discover it in your everyday life, it's useless. So truth, spiritual truth, is only truth if you make it transparent to your everyday life. If it becomes a way to open up your everyday life, you see. So it's really the same thing. When you open up a compressed truth and open it up like a cotton ball, you're basically opening up your own life. They're really not any different. So let's read the quote and let's open it up a little bit. The quote is, "There is no such thing as my life, and I don't have a life. I am life. I and life are one. It cannot be otherwise. So how could I lose my life? How could I lose something that I don't have in the first place? How could I lose something that I am? It's impossible." Okay. So I wrote up here, "I don't have a life," as kind of like the, what? What? I don't have a life? Because that's just the opposite of what we think. I got to get a life. Don't you have a life? Get a life. But we are really victim. The problem with spiritual truth, realization, satori, awakening, enlightenment, all of these things, is that we are held in hostage by our grammar. Our grammar is part of the Indo-European language system. It's all the same grammar. And the grammar is subject, verb, object. Okay? Subject, verb, object. We all went to school and learned this. You got nouns, subjects, and objects are nouns. And you got the verb here in the middle. So we talk about the world as things doing things to things. So this is a marker, this is a noun. The marker writes on the whiteboard. Okay? The marker is a noun. It writes, and the whiteboard is a noun. Okay? So that's the way we talk about things. But the illusion of reality happens, the problem with reality happens when we believe reality fits our grammar. And grammar is just a way, a tool we have to talk about reality so we can do stuff, you see. But reality does not fit grammar, you see. But we believe it because that's the way we think. So we think my thinking is reality, is a perfect description of reality. So what I think is real. And I think in a language. And the language is structured by the grammar. So we live in a world, a materialistic world, where everything's a noun. And all these nouns are just doing things to other nouns. We assume that's real. We assume that is the world we live in. So a quote like this doesn't fit the grammatical structure. So it doesn't make any sense. Oh, we find it entertaining, we find it curious, we find it intriguing, we find it mysterious. We want to figure it out because, well, Eckhart Tolle said it, and he's supposed to have wisdom, so it must have something to it. It's not just gibberish, you see. So we want to figure out what it is, but we try to figure out what it is through our grammar, and you can't do it because he's not speaking of a reality that fits our grammar. So when I say I don't have a life, what I'm saying there with my grammatical structure, that I am a thing and I have or don't have life, which is another thing. And that doesn't make sense. I mean, that's why he's questioning our grammatical understanding of ourselves. Because when it comes to self-knowledge, self-realization, grammar doesn't work. In fact, it becomes an obstruction. So grammar only works when I'm describing the external world and I want to catch a bus, or I want to get a marker and I want to tell you to write on the board with the marker. Okay, so that's external. So grammar works there. Leave it alone. But the internal world, the subjective world of me, who am I? Grammar fails us. Because if we try to understand who I am, in other words, not who I am, because if you're trying to understand who I am, well, then you're using grammar. Well, he's a thing, he's somebody talking there, and he's doing something about that, yada, yada. But who are you? Who am I is your question. And it's my question, who am I? And you ask, who am I? But if you say, who are you? Well, then you're going to use grammar. But if you ask the question, who am I? Grammar fails and becomes an obstacle. So we have to understand as we go into these Tolle quotes, pulling them apart, is that there is an invitation in his teaching to make a shift of viewpoint, a shift of perspective. And it's the same kind of shift. I put this up here. I didn't draw, maybe if you take a compass, so a compass like, okay, so in other words, if this is a compass and you have the center here, and you start expanding the compass, and you keep drawing more. This is like a drop of pebble in a pond, and you have an expanding circumference going out, right? Okay? So the center, the foot of the compass that is in the center, right here, and this center is I. And everything out here, everything that is expanding is the center. Now that's it. I'm trying to explain this again. Okay. the subject, all right, there's a shift from object to subject. And all the descriptions, all the way we talk about the world is an objective way. We're talking about objects. We're talking about, you're thinking about me as an object, I'm talking to you as an object. But what if I was talking to you as a subject? Which I really feel I'm doing, because as subject, you are subject, I am subject. You are the center of your world, I'm the center of my world, but as subject, there is only one center. So I'm speaking, when I speak from my heart, I'm speaking to you as me. I'm speaking to you as subject. And we are both the same subject. And yet at the same time, we can see each other as object. So there is a parallax view going on. But the dominant view of our culture is that everything's an object, including me. And that's the view from the outside, you see. In other words, from outside, we're all looking at it, you see. So I'm calling this an it. So I'm saying, want to talk about this? This is an object, you see. I'm the center looking at that, you see. But I'm not it. It's separate from me. So when Tolle says, there's no such thing as my life, he would be saying there is no such thing as my eraser. There are two views here. The grammatical view is that I have an eraser. The center view is, the shift to me as center is that I and the eraser, I as subject, have an experience of the eraser, but the experience is also me too. I am my experience. From this view, I'm separate from my experience. But from the subject view, the me as center, I and my experience are one. So the subject, you see, from the subject view, I am the center of the whole cosmos, because everything I experience is me. So you're looking at like two sides of one coin. One side is the grammatical side, the objective world of materialism in which we live, so we can make stuff and make an array, make a marker. This is a valid, necessary view, which has made the civilization we are using right now to talk to each other, you see. But from the who am I view, this objective view is not helpful. In fact, it is unhelpful. So there has to be a shift to me as center, which is the subjective view. So from that view, you are the center of the universe, and you and I are one because I am your experience. You are your experience. Your experience is not somebody else's experience. Your experience of me is you. So whatever you experience in the world is you. It's not somebody else. You see? So from that view, that's the view of the poet. This is the view of prose, analysis, science, logic. The view of the poet is that I and the world are one. I'm the robin singing, and I'm the mountain hieing, you see. I'm the apple tree appling. Apple tree doesn't have apples. The tree and the apples are one. It's appling. The earth doesn't have humans. The earth is appling humans. We are the earth. So this view from the center is the view of self-realization, and when this view cannot be made to happen from this view. So this view cannot be made to happen through time or effort, because this view is the timeless. You as center, this is where we get back into Tolle's quote again, I am life. This view says I am life. This view says I have a life. Both are right. You have a life. You are life. But they are different. And I hate even the word they use, view. They are different personalities. They are different worlds. They are different awareness. They are different realities. And both are valid. And yet they cannot simultaneously be the same view at once. That's why my fallback picture is this. If you remember, but we've looked at this before. Do you see the old woman? And you see the young woman? The old woman, this is the left side of her face. Here's her ear. Here's her nose. Here's her chin. The young woman, here's her left eyelid. Here's her that's a profile, you see. Here's her left ear, her hair, you see. So there's the old woman and the young woman. And you can only see one at a time. When you see the young woman, you see the young woman, it stands alone. When you see the old woman stands alone. But yet they're mutually dependent. If you change one, you change the other. You can't have one without the other. You can't take away the old woman's nose because you lose the young woman, you see. So this is kind of like a metaphorical picture of these two views. So when I see the world as me, when I suddenly see that I am you and you are me, that of course is speaking the words of Jesus when he says, love your enemy. This is a mystical language. This is the language from as if life were speaking itself. If life had a voice, if life was able to speak, it would always speak from this view. The view I am life, you know. So when Jesus talks and writes, he's talking from this view. He's not talking from this grammatical view of it's and material, but we try to understand the words of Jesus through this view, and it doesn't make any sense. So when I say I don't have a life, I am life, substitute life for God, and what do you get? Well, you get heresy. If you say, I don't have God, I am God. Whoa. Because we interpret that through this subject and grammar here. What do you mean you're God? You big ego, you see. God's a thing. You're not a thing. You're not God. See, so if we understand through this, anything said about life and about who we are and our true nature, you see, doesn't make any sense. And so when it doesn't make sense, everybody argues because everybody wants to make sense. Everybody wants to say, I as a thing, I have the truth, you see, so I'm certain. And from this view, you don't have the truth, and yet you believe you do, so you're going to argue with other people who say they have the truth. And that's the cause of war and conflict, you see. All because we're trying to understand life as one from the viewpoint of many, you see. So when Tolle says, I am life, I and life are one, he's speaking from a center of unity, not from being outside of something talking about it, which is the many. So this is the view of the many. Everything is a thing. I'm a thing talking about things. We're going to fix this thing and get that thing and get rid of that thing. And this is the language of survival and making stuff. This language is the language of discovering inner peace, completeness, and being at ease in the world and the ending of one's war with the world. It's called self-realization, awakening, enlightenment, being saved. I don't care. You can put a lot of names on it, but everybody's looking for it, you see. So think about this grammar. I guess that would be the one thing. So that's what this quote is about to me. How could I lose my life? How could I lose something that I don't have in the first place? From this point of view, is you have a life. If you drop the grammar, you drop into a different understanding, a different realization, a different way of being. And these two ways of being exist simultaneously because they're always present. I am life is always present, but if I perceive myself as being separate from life and having a life as a thing, you see, this view is, we could say, asleep. It's always there, but it's not activated. So this view has to be activated. This is what Buddhism is all about. It's about creating the conditions, meditation, mindfulness. It's about creating the conditions in which this view activates. Because you can't make it happen by willpower from this point of view. So it has to be activated, kind of like when you get a credit card, a new credit card, and you call in and you activate it. It's no good unless you call in and activate it. So this view has to be activated because of intention. You have to want to activate this view. You have to want to know who you are. You have to know you have to want to know what the truth is. What is the truth in this moment? What is happening here? What is the truth here? I don't know. I want to know. What is the truth? I ask. I ask reality. I ask life. I ask God. I don't care who you ask, but if you ask from a place of not knowing, which is letting go of this grammar that thinks it knows everything, if you let go of the grammar, you let go of thinking. This is thinking. Grammar is the laws of thinking. Thinking cannot get to awareness of being. Awareness of being as being one is not thought. So this awareness of one, awareness of life as life, awareness of life as life, is being. Life is aware of life. Life is being. Being is aware of being as one being. Not two, but one. So this is prior to this awareness. This subject, verb, object is an evolution of consciousness from unity consciousness to separate consciousness, which enabled us to get out of the Serengeti plains and not be eaten by a tiger or a lion or something. Space Odyssey 2001 was a good description of that, where you go from the monkey to the astronaut, and it's all the same evolution of consciousness. So this awareness, being aware of being, is prior to and is the source out of which this subject, verb, object consciousness, this language consciousness rises. So we can only get home again, we can only return to the source when we drop thinking and language and grammar. And the reality we believe is the only reality because we believe it fits our grammar. Just to close, my wife was an English teacher. I taught English for 3 years, And it's a funny thing about English teachers. and ministers, people will usually, when you find out you're talking to an English teacher or a minister, the reaction is the same. Oh, am I sinning? What, did I just make a grammatical mistake? Or did I? In other words, the grammar and and the laws of God are kind of like the same. You know, and so we're always kind of like, when we're free from the law, we can tell dirty jokes and be ungrammatical and be incorrect and all of that, you see. And then suddenly, when the grammarian comes in or the minister comes in, we freeze up, you see, and we become self-observing. You know, we don't want to sin. We don't want to be judged, you see. So this grammar is kind of like that, you see. It's kind of like the laws of God that created the universe by grammar. So the universe, we believe that the universe is created to fit our grammar. And to break with the grammar, to drop the grammar, is a sin. You see. So, therefore, we don't go there. I had a evangelical friend of mine. I said, I meditate. She says, oh, you shouldn't meditate. That lets the devil in. See, meditation is dropping the language, is dropping the subject, object, verb, grammatical structure of the mind. So when you meditate, you have the intention to move into being. Into being aware of being. Life aware of life. Life, you and life is one. So we'll let it with that. And thank you we'll let it go with that. So thank you for dropping in. I hope you like these, pulling these holy quotes apart like this. It's kind of liberating for me, because it gives me something to anchor my talks on, something to put the compass foot on, you know, and so we can expand it. We can put the leg of the compass in the holy quote, and then just let the other leg keep going out and out and out and out like that, you see. So I'll see you next time. Thank you for dropping in.